Coming up on Hoge Jahns, a really good, deep quarterback conversation with our friend Tim Jenkins. Tim Jenkins, Elite. It's a must listen. You're going to want to hear it. And if you've ever wondered what really goes into a cadence, we're going to get into all of it. Plus, the head coach taking some accountability. All that's next. Hoge Jahns starts right now. What's up? Welcome in. Hoge Jahns with you on a Wednesday edition, Wednesday morning as we record this and start to flip the page to the Detroit Lions and a tough week 2 matchup. Both teams losing in week 1, need a win in week 2. So we'll save a lot of that for Friday, obviously, but there's a lot to dissect with the quarterback, with the head coach. What's going on, Johnsy?
Adam, I don't know how you felt watching Ben Johnson's Zoom call yesterday, but to hear him say, yeah, that's on me, or I should have done that differently, and then to say it again about another thing, that felt extremely notable to me for a first-year head coach to say that after his first real game.
Yeah, it was refreshing. He did it on a couple different things. One was the timeout that was called before they went for it on 4th and 3. He's like, I just didn't get the play call in fast enough. That's on me. Had to burn a timeout. And then the bigger one that, speaking of accountability, I didn't know that was a rule. So it's good clarification that came out. In fact, I didn't even really realize it when Ben said it yesterday, but because it kind of surprised me. He was asked what he could do better, and he brought up the challenge on Noah Sewell's peanut punch, which in the moment seemed like could have been a good fumble because Hawkins' knee was down, but he wasn't touched, and the only thing Noah Sewell appeared to hit was the ball. But apparently by rule, it doesn't matter. If an opponent's down, they don't ask the officials to decipher that. Trying to rip the ball out or attack the ball when a player's down deems that player down. That's what it says in the rule book. So with that knowledge, Ben Johnson should not have challenged that, which he admitted. And he went so far as to say that he needs to listen to the guys upstairs in the booth. And I'm paraphrasing now, but he basically got a little excited in the moment. And I think you noted how far he threw that red challenge flag.
Yeah.
So he's not just going to be a tosser. He's going to be a thrower on those. And you can look at that a couple ways, like a little alarming. You're already ignoring the guys upstairs who are paid to tell you what to do on those, but he takes accountability for it. You learn from it. And that's all you can really ask from your head coach in his first game. There's going to be mistakes.
He's never been through that. He's never been on the sideline against a divisional rival in a close game at home where his sideline sees this play and they're going nuts over this play, where the crowd is going nuts over this play, where everyone wants it challenged. Like, everybody felt that emotion in the stadium except for the guys in the booth looking at the video. Those are the cool, calm, collected guys you want to listen to. The guys actually seeing it replayed via their own stuff. So I like that he actually acknowledged that emotion too. That was refreshing to hear. I get caught up on the sideline stuff. That's great. It's great to hear because we know that's real. As much as people don't want to acknowledge that of being real, it so is, especially in football games, an emotional game itself.
Yeah. And now you hope that the guys upstairs did know the rule. We're telling him, hey, not worth the challenge. And if that was the case, as it sounds like based on what Ben said yesterday was the case, that's actually a good sign to me because there's a ton of rules. Football is very complicated, and I think it's actually unrealistic to expect a head coach to be. Now, it's part of the job. Some coaches are better than others, but it's why Mike Vrabel gets credit for his obsessive knowledge of the rules when he's not afraid to tell you he's got that guy. What's his name? Sean Stryker, he's his guy. He's his rules guy. He's his master of clock management and the rule book and everything, and you have that guy in your headset and you trust that guy and he helps you along the way, that goes a long way to help you focus on calling plays and moving the ball forward on offense when you have to juggle those responsibilities.
And you think like knowing the rule book is part of the responsibility of the head coach and really every coach, but I will say this. I am not the most rules guy. We all know that. Only because they change so freaking much.
Yeah.
And the language of them can be a bit confusing. Just go back to the old catch rule, right? Like it can be very convoluted. So the rule you just read, it's hard to know the finest of details, especially when you're like the play caller and so much goes into the game besides the rules.
Yeah. Also, I'm just going to warn people right now. There's going to be a taunting rant coming for me soon because it's already building. I can feel it inside of me. We went down this road before, and now they're trying to do it again. It's ridiculous. So I don't know when it's going to come. Maybe when it happens in a Bears game, but it's going to come. It's going to be bad. So I'm just warning you now. First of all, we have a column we should tell you about. allchgo.com. We are going to be doing this weekly, Johns and myself. It's called Insider Analysis, and we're going to drop it. The plan is to drop it on Wednesday mornings for you. All the CHGO diehards, you'll have access to this, and it's going to be a lot of stuff coming out of the game and then trying to spin it forward to the next game. So you're going to have a little bit of back and forth conversation with us, a little bit of film breakdown, Johnsy stuff from the locker room. So we hope it's a good blend of the insider knowledge from Johnsy, the analysis from me, and a little bit of both from both of us. And I think you'll like it. So that first one of those dropped this morning, allchgo.com. If you're a diehard, you can already get it. If you're not, become a diehard. Go to allchgo.com/diehard or scan the QR code we throw up on the screen quite frequently during the show. There it is. And yeah, this is another perk for you, another added content. I think you'll enjoy it. I also think you'll enjoy this interview with Tim Jenkins. Tim Jenkins does a really good job of breaking down all things QB, which is his YouTube channel, and you should check it out. Not this moment. Wait till after the interview. Wait till after the episode. Then go check it out because he's got a really good film breakdown of Caleb Williams on his channel. But he played in the league, played quarterback. He knows the position. And we really got into some of the nitty gritty with him on not only some of these issues with Caleb Williams, but sort of zooming out and like, okay, we always talk about cadences. What does that actually mean? What goes into a cadence? So I think you're going to learn a lot in this episode too, hopefully. I know I really enjoyed it. I know Johns did too. So sit back, relax, take it all in. Tim Jenkins here on Hoge Jahns. Let's bring in our friend Tim Jenkins, who always does such a great job breaking down the film, and love having him on CHGO and here on Hoge Jahns. That was an interesting one, Tim, to start the season. It started off so great and then really tailed off. But thanks for jumping on with us.
Oh, I'm fired up. I definitely thought it was going to be a little. We were DMing before the game. I definitely thought in that second quarter, I'm like, oh, it's going to be really exciting Wednesday, and then now it's kind of we're going to rally the troops.
So let's go through your analysis a bit as you're going through things play by play. Like, I'm just curious, as you're evaluating this, like, how do you grade check down versus, oh, that's a missed chunk of play right there?
Yeah.
Like, how would you evaluate that? Grade that for us.
I mean, here's a couple of things, and I kind of joked about it on my breakdown. Like, I went longer than normally. Like I try to make it to where, hey, here's the 12 clips that were most important. I did like 27 because there's a lot of it where for me, I'm almost learning alongside, right? I feel like, when you have 17 games with somebody, you start to figure out, oh, here's where the quarterback's eyes are supposed to be. I'm not one of those guys that pretends like, man, I know every NFL scheme and like nobody does. So for me, it's like, okay, hey, why is Caleb's eyes there, or why is he doing this? In terms of the question of like, hey, when's a positive check down versus when's one where it's like, hey, we got to hold this thing downfield. For me, it's two things. One, like down and distance, right? If you're thinking 1st and 10, 2nd and 10 shot play, and you see those linebackers and DBs all bailing out of there super deep, hey, get to your check down early because we're going to get positive. That's, to me, a positive check down. When you're sitting there and it's 3rd and 12, 3rd and 13, and we've got DJ Moore isolated one-on-one on a corner on a we used to call it an Oklahoma route, right, where it's a 6-step speed out to the sideline, and hey, we get to our check down pretty early there. To me, that's a negative because it's like, hey, we actually have what we would call a premier look, right? We have a good look for this play, so let's not get off of it. And that's where I think you kind of saw Caleb getting to a check down regardless, which it's so hard for me being on the outside. And I'm sure you guys to a degree too, where you sit there and you go, man, I don't actually know what's getting hammered home in that meeting room. Are they prioritizing completions, getting the ball out of your hand? Or are they saying, hey, Caleb, on these premier looks, hold the ball, right? Like there's a difference between holding the ball in quick game and downfield and then holding the ball in a shot play, right? Because shot plays, we call them because we want to take the shot, right? Like, you see there, we always say PCP, right? Play, caller, purpose. Why is that coming into my helmet? Hey, we want to drive the ball down the field. So those ones, to me, it's like, when they talk about, hey, snap to ball out of your hand, yeah, that applies in quick game or rhythm throws. To me, shot plays, like that's where we can hold the ball. Even, you go back to some of the all-time great processors like Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, all those guys, like they would still hold the ball on shot plays. So for the check down question, to me, it's like down and distance is a real critical factor in it. And then, hey, how is this play unfolding? Is this the right coverage we want for it? The thing that stinks about it, truthfully, is like as fans, when we're watching on Monday night, we actually can't tell, right? Because a lot of times so the TV shot is so zoomed in that you don't really know what's going on downfield. So that's where it's kind of hard. It's like you saw a lot of checkdowns. To me, there were 2 or 3 that I thought were really good. Everything else, it's like, man, we actually had a look downfield that I'd love to see him hang on to.
Yeah, and I think to sort of answer your question there, I think my feeling is they are drilling completions. I mean, this has been the talk since camp started. They wanted him to go 70% in camp, which seemed like a lofty goal. That's where they want him to be. That's kind of where Jared Goff has been, right, for him in the past. So, to get there, you need to get completions. The ball needs to be completed. You're going to get some yards, right? So, it almost, I guess, if you're trying to get that home to a young quarterback, do you view that as the right strategy? Like, maybe we overcorrect to let's hit our check downs, and then once we're kind of in rhythm there, then you expand it back out over the course of the season. And is that realistic in the NFL?
That's such a that is the perfect question. Is it the right strategy? Like, to me, it's such a nuanced question. I think to a degree, yes. What I'll tell you is, and this is just from being around stuff, it's always a great strategy when you see it at practice. And then you get to week 1 and you see those shot plays downfield and you see guys, open, and then you're yelling into your headset, GD, right? So, I'd never say that curse word, but then you see Ben Johnson zoomed in and he's, in his headset pissed off. And it's like, to me, that's the balancing act of it, right? Is you have a kid like Caleb Williams, you've seen stuff on tape from the previous staff where you said, man, we got to correct this. He's holding on to the football. He's doing this. And then we get a premier look and he gets to his check down versus, giving the rookie tight end a half click longer to wrap the mic, right? Like there's certain things where it's like, man, we got an 18-yard gain if we just hold it a split second longer. And do I think it's realistic? If I'm being honest, no, I don't think that's something that realistically. You also got to talk about a quarterback, the only time they feel the rush, like really, and quarterbacks, we can say whatever the heck we want to say about, oh man, camp, it was super fast today. We know we're not getting hit, right? Like quarterbacks in the pocket in camp, like, shoot, man, I looked like Tom Brady, right? I'd stand in there firm, I'm 6'2", 210, but I knew Robert Quinn wasn't going to hit me, right? Then in a game, I'm getting the heck out of there, So to me, it's like, it's different. It's hard over, really 18 live bullet scenarios to say on the first 8, we're going to coach him to get the ball out, and the next 10, we're going to coach him to hold it. I don't think that's realistic. So I think they're going to really have to hammer him on understanding when we, hey, this shot play, here's the exact coverage we're looking for, right? If we get that coverage, hold it. If we don't, feel free to get it out of your hand. that to me is where it's like I can only assume that's where Jared Goff got to with this offense, because this offense isn't perfect in terms of there are certain shot plays you call in that, hey, if it's a too high beater, if they rolled a single high, we're not going to win on this play, right? They're going to take everything away, just get to your back. That's where the combination of, I think this is maybe the first time Caleb's truly been asked to do that sort of shot play stuff. And you couple that with you're playing Brian Flores, who you guys saw some of those tape looks, right? It's like you've got mugged up cover 0 that bails to cover 2. Like, it's also tough to go against, and, Peyton Manning was joking about what the Bears were giving, JJ, where it's like, he's like, I played 18 years and I thought it was man, right? Like, there's certain looks where you're just going to be confused, and that's okay. That's why we got to stay out of 3rd and long. But I do think that's something that should get better throughout the season. But again, it's going to be a tough coach. It's going to be a tough coaching curve. If we're prioritizing completions, then to get him to hold on to the ball, I think that's going to be a tough ride for those, that transitionary period.
So in your analysis, you kept questioning or bringing up Caleb's feet and his eyes.
Yep.
And for those of us who didn't watch your video, for those of us who have questions just in terms of what you mean, maybe can you take us through that? And what do you think Ben Johnson is saying about his feet and his eyes in yesterday's meeting and today's meeting with him? Here's
one just general catch-all. If you want to know if a quarterback is confused, we call it rereading a concept. So let's just pretend we have 2 receivers on each side of us, and the guys on the left are running like a smash concept where you have a hitch, which is just like a little shorter route in the flat and a corner behind it. And then on the other side, you have what we would call old school drive. You have a 12-yard in, and then you have a guy out running that shallow across the field. What we saw too much of Caleb, and this is how you know he doesn't know where to put his eyes, is rereading a concept, meaning normally you would read that, you would alert the hitch, but you would really read that corner to the shallow, the guy running all the way across to the basic. That's traditionally how you'd read that. What you saw a lot with Caleb is concepts like that, where it's like he put his eyes to the left, he'd look back to the right, and then he'd look back to the left. We call it rereading. You should never rescan the field, right? Like, that's just like, once you move off the guy, you move off of him. He would be rereading it, which to me signals like, 1, he's not sure where to put his eyes on that specific concept, or 2, and this is probably what I'm leaning towards, is Ben probably hasn't put his eyes in different spots based on different coverages, right? Like, that's what you really want. And Caleb's probably potentially was uncertain of the coverage. So then he's like trying to make sure he's like scanning for everything, which is just unrealistic, because all that ends up happening is you have your eyes you have your eyes on the receiver when he's potentially not supposed to be open. And then you look off of him right as he breaks open, right? That's just always how it happens. Or it's what it feels like as a quarterback when you're uncertain and you're kind of rereading things. So the other thing you can tell it on is from a footwork perspective. When you watched Goff play at the end with the Lions and Ben Johnson, what you really saw was really precise footwork, meaning, hey, I'm set to my first progression, I'm resetting, then I'm resetting. You didn't see that, hey, I'm running my feet, I'm kind of not sure where my feet are supposed to be set. I do think that's what led to some of the inaccuracies too on things that, like, I don't know. I'm one of those guys. I watched Caleb Williams all last year. I didn't feel like going into this year, hey man, DJ Moore's running open on a slant to convert a 4th down. I wasn't one of those guys going into the season who was like, man, we got to worry about if he's going to complete it, right? That felt more of like a Fields issue, if I'm being honest, where it was like, oh, hey, this is schemed open and hopefully we're accurate with the football. I do think some of that indecision with your eyes and your feet lead to inaccuracies when guys are open. And I just, if I'm being honest, I think Ben's probably hammering him this week of like, dude, why are my eyes here? Look at this. What are we doing? And it is what it is. I think the best thing you can do for a guy who's been Caleb Williams' trajectory, meaning I'm the dude in high school, I'm the dude in college, I'm the number 1 overall pick, the best thing you can do is coach him, right? And I think that's something that I hate sounding like the guy who's like, get off my lawn, but I do think that's something that's missing nowadays, is like radical accountability from our quarterbacks. And I do think the guys that get that excel, like Andy Reid, he does seem like your fun grandpa. In the meeting rooms, that dude's diabolical, right? Like, he is hammering, and probably not anymore, but early in Patrick's career, that's what was happening. So to me, it's like the best thing I think Caleb could get. They just have to survive each other. right? Like that, they just have to get through that part of the relationship. And I do think he'll be substantially more successful. And I think we'll see his eyes and his feet tied together better, moving forward.
So we want to get into some of the nitty gritty with cadences with you. And I know Johns has some quotes from Ben Johnson he's going to read. But before you do that, I want to kind of back up and just talk to Tim Jenkins, the elite quarterback coach here, okay?
Yep.
So if you were to go through a training camp where pretty much every single day you were having pre-snap issues, delay of games, because the calls weren't either coming in fast enough from the coach or not getting relayed fast enough in the huddle, and you got this offense that requires all these shifts, motions, a bunch of cadences that you need every single week, and it's just not all clicking throughout an entire camp. You get to week 1, and there it is. All those issues showed up in the first 2 quarters of the game because of everything that's been happening in practice. How do you adjust as the coach? Like, how do you adjust, look at this, like, this is what we can do, this is what we need to change because we still have 16 games to get through, and this is just not happening?
That's that's a great question. For me, philosophically, I would probably do what the Bears did, which is I would live with the penalties because I know what we need to actually operate this offense, right? I'd say, like, hey, I know we're going to have some issues, but we got to figure, like, more or less, we got to make sure Caleb can do this because long term, we have to have multiple cadences. We have to be in and out of the huddle. We got to maybe, like, listen, maybe they need a wrist. Caleb wasn't wearing a wristband. They might need to wristband some calls, right? Like, some of those, it's just like, 18 plays or 18 words into your helmet, 18 words out, maybe even twice. Like, that's just time, right? That's just a lot of time. We break the huddle. We got 10 seconds left. Okay, now we're in our turbo cadence. Hey, motion, get back out there. I don't really need it. I can already tell man zone, turbo set hut. Like, it's a lot operationally. Simultaneously, like, that is why we pay quarterbacks a ton of money, is to handle all that inside of 25 or 40 seconds, right? Like, it is what it is. I would probably do what they did, which is go into it. What I'll tell you is, for me, a lot of this gets solved with the huddle, right? Like, if we can break the huddle cleaner, a lot of the other stuff gets solved because cadence issues, like, it could be 9,000 things. Part of it is probably the shift from the color number to a turbo type cadence, right? As you're shifting that, you're motioning somebody, your O-line jumps, and it's like, they were expecting, we used to call it alpha blue go. Now everybody says turbo set hut, but it's like they were expecting a quick cadence. You motion, now he's, leaning forward and he jumps. So I do think I would have attacked it the same way. If we're sitting here in week 4 and we have the same issue, I'd be starting to think about, okay, hey, let's just simplify it and get through the season. With that being said, from a coaching perspective, that's one of those things that you can go and make every throw in the world. If you can't operate the huddle and the cadence from a coaching perspective, that's the stuff that starts to drive, especially scheme guys. Ben Johnson is a scheme guy. He doesn't care if you're all world. He's going to design things to get open. Like, Jared Goff's not all world physically, right? So he's seen what his offense can look like. That's when you start seeing real frustrations. You start seeing guys who I think all of a sudden start going, like, is this really our guy? Because if you can't operate the huddle and the cadence, like, that's viewed as an elementary thing. What I'll tell you, training guys nowadays, biomechanics, throwing the football, is at an all-time high. The stuff that we grew up on doing, like good footwork, getting in and out of the huddle, having an actual cadence. I mean, I see it in 3rd grade tackle football. I'm coaching my son. Boom. Everybody else is clapping, Mac Jenkins is yelling turbo set hut and white 20, because I'm like old school. I believe in that, so it's like, but everybody else, man, they're clapping. And I do think we're seeing it catch up in the NFL game where we sit there and we go, man, we have all these guys and they're super talented. We either adjust our scheme to them, right? Or we're bringing somebody else in here who's maybe older, maybe not as physically gifted, but can operate it.
So that answer is a great segue to this quote. So Ben Johnson was asked about how they're going to fix these false start issues since they've been so prevalent and since they go all the way back to training camp, just like we discussed. And he was visibly, Adam, how would you describe it? He was perturbed, not by the question, but you could tell this was a touchy subject for him. So
yeah, just the topic.
Yeah, the topic is a touchy subject for him. So
yeah.
How are you going to fix your false start issues? This is Ben Johnson's answer. Yeah, I guess silent cadence, right? Maybe that'll help here this week. We could go on that, and we're going to need to do that. We're going to need to be really good at that because this is going to be a loud environment that we're going to. It's going to be a playoff-like atmosphere. Ford Field has been something else over the last couple of years, so we're going to have to be at our best. Certainly, we haven't been good enough over the course of camp. We haven't been good week one. And so this is going to be a huge point of emphasis for us going forward. When you hear that and you hear that he's kind of annoyed by all this, what do you think as a QB coach yourself?
Yeah, so I'm not saying this is it's going to come off as a joke. This is not a joke. The way you know how frustrated he is if my son, and he's in third grade, had cadence issues, I would be pissed at the dinner table. Like, that's how elementary this topic is, right? So to me, it's like him being visibly upset about it is not surprising. Like, my wife would be dishing up spaghetti and it would be miserable, and it's third grade. So to me, you've got a first overall pick. I could imagine what that meeting room is like now. Now, a little perspective is, I'm not sure Caleb has ever had to do substantial cadence work. So that's the other thing. I'll tell you a little story. When I was with the Rams for like 3 months before they figured out, hey, I can't throw or do anything, they fired me. But I'm backing up Sam Bradford, and Sam Bradford is the number 1 overall pick. My cadence was substantially different than his. We were all white 20, wide 20 set hut, but I had too long of a pause, right? And I'll never forget, Brian Schottenheimer, now the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, sat me down. He goes, Tim, where'd you go to college? I was like, I went to Fort Lewis College, And he's like, the guy that you're backing up has a statue. So what do you think about it? We mimic our cadence off of him, right? Like, it was important to have the same cadence. What that looks like, that's where, if I'm guessing, there's a couple of things. One, I'm guessing Caleb's color number set hut isn't consistent, meaning he's probably sometimes white 20, wide 20 set hut, like you're supposed to do. And then every once in a while he goes white 20, wide 20. And then instead of rolling right into the set hut, he's like thinking, and then his right tackle jumps because he's like, dude, you've been wide 20 set hut the whole time. You just paused after white 20. Like, we got to figure that out. So one, like, you need consistency in your color numbers, right? Then you need consistency in how you communicate when we're in a turbo, right? So you might, a lot of people grew up with like second sound, right? Set hut, second sound, or whatever. You might do that a couple of times. One, hey, you've been heavy shift motion. We're in a third and short. We're not going to shift motion. So we're just going to get up there, turbo set hut, and snap it and run a play while the defense thinks all the, hey, motion or shift, motion, like 20, they think all this slow stuff's going to happen. We're going to hit them real quick. You might turbo set hut in a play clock going down situation, meaning you get up there, hey, we were just in the huddle. Let's say we're just in the huddle, and this might be what it sounds like. You're going to say, hey, we're going to go blast to tiger right, 12 OP, kill, scat, all go, ready, break. And you walk up there, it's 10, it's 9. So instead of going through, in a kill situation or a can, you would go set hut, like 20 wide, 20 set hut, and then you would decide what you like on the play. You'd either can it or you'd say, hey, we're good, and then you go turbo set hut. Well, shoot, I just called 2 plays in the huddle. It took us too long to get it in, took me too long to get it out, whatever it is. I walk into the line, the play clock's going down, so you abort all of that, and you say, hey, we're good, we're good, we're good. Express, meaning, hey, I'm going fast, we're good, we're running the first play. Turbo set hut, you just get into OP. All that communication. And then if we're not consistent with our cadence, is going to lead to like massive issues. So, and then when they say, hey, we want X amount of cadence, we'd like to have X amount of cadences, what they mean is like, hey, we want to be able to clown, which means we want to be able to get up there and turbo set hut, but freeze them. We want to be able to clown a call, meaning like, hey, false Omaha, even though we're keeping the play on, because we want to be able to later say false Omaha and run false, meaning left, Omaha, meaning OP, like an open side zone. We want to be able to say that late in the game when it matters, when we're actually checking to a play. So they want the clown cadence. They want the express cadence. They want color number. Then they want color number, but on 2. Like, there's so many things that go into it. And if we can't get the basic stuff right, and it doesn't sound basic when I'm like walking through all these scenarios, but when you're making, millions of dollars to play quarterback, it is, right? Like those are things that everyone's expected to do. Like I came off a plane from Fort Lewis College and I'm like, and they expected me to be able to operate that, and I was in the same spread stuff where, your clap, like that's just the expectation, they're a little less patient with you if they don't take you first overall. Right. So to me, it's like, I think honestly, the best thing for Caleb is Ben, who's going to be impatient and coach him hard. But the silent cadence, he's making a joke. It actually will help this week because it's hard to jump off sides when your guard's tapping your center or you're slapping your center's butt before you get under there. But they have to get this fixed. Like you have to be able to operate, and you have to think about, we're talking about it strictly as a negative. Hey, we got to make it to where we're just net even. That's not the goal of your cadence, right? The goal of your cadence is to be a weapon. We want free plays and we want the defense to tip their hand. Like that's where this is going. So to me, it's like we're almost, we bought a stock, we're down 50%. And the goal is actually to get to, we want to be up 100%. Like we're way behind. And a lot of it, like, I don't know. It's hard because to me, it's like, it's easy to lay all this at Caleb because what Ben's done in Detroit. There is a piece of this though, that like, if you're the quarterback coach in building, like you should be getting like this should be fixed. Like, and again, I'm not saying I'm not saying I know everything because I don't, right? Like, listen, I've lost a third grade tackle football game. You know what I mean? Like I lost to an accountant, right? I'm not scheming up everybody, but what I'll tell you is like, there are things that we've done with guys that we knew, hey, cadence is going to be an issue where it's like, hey dude, I need 20 voice memos a day of what a cadence sounds like, right? And they're like saying it into their phone and sending it to us. Like there are ways to get this corrected that are like very practical, that if you're the quarterback coach in building of the Bears, like, dude, you have to fix, in my opinion, you have to fix this. You have to be the guy who's accountable to like, hey, I don't care if it's miserable. Like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to sit there in front of a mirror and you're going to say your cadence and we're going to do this for 2 hours. Like, sorry, this is what we get paid to do. So we have to clean it up.
But what you wouldn't do is, to completely remove it, like, and go back to as basic as can be. Press Taylor, the Bears pass game coordinator, told me, like, ideally, you want 5 or 6 different cadences going into a game. Yep. So I imagine going from like, maybe they have 4 in, because I don't think they're at 5 or 6 right now. You don't want to just go back to 1, right? That seems like a whole, like everything all the time you invested in earlier in this just would make it like a waste of time.
To me, if you make that call, it's like, hey, we're 3-3 in week 6, and we have to clean this up because we actually can make the playoffs, right? Like that's when I would do it. I also think like that would then be spurring a lot of questions that nobody in Chicago, myself included, wants to go through again. Like I do not want to be sitting here talking draft prospects with you guys again, right? Like we've done this so many times, and I do think like this is the slight indictment of the ownership being that like this is year 2 for Caleb, and and he's got a new staff. Like this should have all been learned as a rookie. Unfortunately, it wasn't. So to me, I just think you keep moving forward. I think you keep pounding away. If you make that call, like I said, I think it's week 6, week 7, but I do think that would spur on. Like think about how frustrated Ben is right now. If you have to start changing stuff because your number 1 overall pick can't do a cadence, I think that spurs a lot of stuff behind closed doors that I don't think would be positive for the organization.
Yeah. So, quick follow-up on the cadence and then a deeper question on the quarterback room. And it's related, but just to help our listeners a little bit, because that was an awesome breakdown you just did about, what everything that goes into a cadence. But when you say colored number, can you explain that? Like what?
Yeah.
What's actually happening there at the line of scrimmage, what the color number means, and how everybody hears that and knows what to do.
Yeah. So the easiest thing, like, I guess the history of it, right? The history of it. But the color number used to be like meant something. The color number used to mean like, hey, red was, we're changing something, red, right? And then orange was nothing, and then white was, hey, don't move at all. It's a dummy cadence. That's what it used to mean back in the day. Like I remember hearing stories about like, oh, orange was the hot cadence. But it's because we only had 2 guys out in the pass, right? Or it was like, so, hey, 23 meant, hey, route tree number 2 and 3. We didn't have that many guys, right? It's just, hey, we got slammed with the speed out. Hey, I think I got some orange 23 set out, and then boom, I'm ripping it. Now, the color number really means nothing. It's just all rhythmic, right? So for us, it was always white 20, right? Aaron Rodgers has always been green 19, right? Everybody's got like their thing. White 80's big. So that's all it's meant now is, hey, we're calling it in the huddle. Hey, it's on 2, right? White 20, white 20 said hut. That's when we would get them to jump. Or, hey, it's on 1, white 20, white 20 said hut. So it started out as being actually really cool at the line of scrimmage in the NFL. Now the NFL is so dang complicated. It's like you can't really change it without being in a dummy cadence where you get up there and white 20, white 20 said hot. And then you start really changing everything, right? Because you're talking your line. Hey, Linda, we're going to be in scat left. And then, outside you're saying like, hey, ice cream means, hey, we want the ice route outside. We want to sit inside. And then you're yelling something else backside. Like that's what it's then turned into. So to me, that's where it's like when you have a cadence issue, that's what's probably even more frustrating is Ben's not even asking him to communicate anything through that verbiage. He's just asking him to be consistent with his voice inflection, consistent with his, we call it a non-rhythmic cadence. So a rhythmic cadence is like what you would hear on a Pop Warner field. Down, set, hut, that's rhythmic. We want a non-rhythmic cadence, meaning, we would usually go set, hut, white 20, why 20 set hut, because you want your guys to leave on the T of the set, the second set, right? So white 20, why 20 set hut, they're leaving on that T. The ball's getting snapped on that T, so we hopefully have an advantage. That's why the non-rhythmic cadence started. So to me, it's like, everything that they're really asking shouldn't be that hard. Simultaneously, it feels like we've made it extremely difficult.
But okay, so here's where my deeper question, and it's the more uncomfortable question. If your quarterback room has a very talented starter who's struggling with that stuff, a young backup who, by all accounts, seemingly has aced all this stuff, which is why they just gave him an extension, and a 13-year veteran in Case Keenum who's still in this league because he can go from offense to offense to offense to offense and understand everything, and that if you had to put him in there in a pinch, he'll be able to run all this stuff. What type of dynamic does that create in the quarterback room?
It's an impossible. Like, listen, when I saw them give Tyson the extension, that creates, to me, an impossible dynamic. And I'm going to say this in the most complimentary way possible I don't mean this as a shot at Tyson. He is not, my perception of him, he is not a locker room quarterback, and I don't mean that as a dig. He just seems wired to be ultra competitive, which you usually see in strictly a starter in the NFL's like quarterback rooms. What you usually see, and you guys know, I'm like saying jokes and generalizations, but what you usually see is you see like 3 guys, you see a Sam Bradford, then you see just 3 like Tim Jenkins type guys, like just like little bit country who are just rooting you on, man. I'm going to tell you, hey, what the safeties did, and then I'm going to hammer a couple Modelos. I'm just happy to be around. You know what I mean? Like that's like usually what you see. And like, again, I mean this in the most complimentary way possible. Like he's not wired, like he's wired like a starter. Like you listen to him talk, you watch him. He's not sitting in there cracking jokes, man. He's serious about it, like, which I love, right? Like as a quarterback guy, like you love it. What I mean by the impossible dynamic is like, this is going to sound crazy. There is no shot that Ben isn't at times thinking, if I just throw Tyson in there and he operates my offense, I scheme guys open, right? Like I don't need, there are certain guys in the NFL, and I think Ben falls under this. And again, this isn't a shot at Ben either, but like there's Ben's, there's Kyle Shanahan's, there's LaFleur. Like they think that they're why the offense goes. They know they need the players, but their job, what they perceive their job as each week is to win with the plays. They don't view it as, hey, my players are going to go win it. They view it as I'm supposed to win. I'm supposed to scheme guys wide open. So when that happens and we're not hitting the guys, there's a piece of him that's sitting there like, man, if I just had someone operating it, would this look different? Now, do I think that's really like, that's just a pissed off feeling right now? Come week 8, week 9, week 10, if we're still having these same conversations, I think that's going to become a real conversation. I think right now it's still just like hey, I'm pissed off. And maybe I'm thinking that. I don't think it's fully there. But I do think, like, listen, their quarterback room is not, I don't think it's built strictly for Caleb. And I don't think that's a negative. I don't think Caleb has earned the right to have the same quarterback room that Mahomes has, where it's like, hey, everybody's here just for Patrick. Or, some of these, I don't think he's earned that yet. And that's where, for me, it's like, if Caleb turns into the guy, I know he just had that extension, but at some point Tyson's getting dealt, and it probably better for his career too. But at some point he's moving on. To me, like, he's the kind of guy who could go win a job and last in the league for a while.
So let me read you one more thing from Ben Johnson, because I just think this is, just fascinating. And I thought this answer for Ben Johnson was very interesting. So here's the context. He was asked about all these off-target throws that Caleb Williams had against the Vikings and how they maybe come in spurts. And what does that mean for him? Does he need to settle down, or is Ben Johnson seeing something else? So this is his answer. I'm still getting to know the player. I thought he started off really well early in the game. Then certainly as the game went on, it seemed to fizzle a little bit. And then towards the end of the game, it came to life again. He came to life again. That's something that we'll have to work through. I'll see how I can help him through the play calls or what's being said on the sideline to just keep him in the best spot and help him out and support him the most, and we'll go from there. So what do you make of that, especially when he starts off by saying, I'm still getting to know the player?
I mean, I think he just means it. I think he means that bluntly, which is he's probably saying what was really interesting that he said was what's getting said on the sideline. He's probably trying to figure out, what does Caleb react to? Does Caleb react to getting his butt chewed? Does Caleb need more of like an O'Connell, hey man, you're doing great. Hey, we're going to get, like, what does he need? How does he need to be massaged on the sideline to make sure we get the most out of him? Which isn't a negative. Like, you got to figure out how, no matter who it is, every player reacts differently. You guys have seen it, like, just like even parenting, right? All your kids react differently to certain punishments. So to me, it's like, I would guess what he's saying there. What also was interesting is, like, hey, through the play calls, I'm assuming he's sitting there like, man, I should have gone back to some of our scripted stuff, because it was like Caleb did operate the scripted stuff really well, which was good to see. Well, it was great to see the Bears even have a script, right? And then score on the script. That was moving in the right direction. But I'm sure he's thinking, hey, I could have gone back to some of the scripted stuff in the middle of the game. And then at the end, like, you got to love that he comes alive at the end, where it's like, okay, hey, Caleb is a gamer, right? Like, we're sitting here and I don't think it was a great outing, but it's like he did make some plays where it's like, and that's the conversation that's tough, right? He made a lot of plays that Tyson's taking a sack or Tyson's getting a 2-yard gain and Caleb gets 18, right? Like, he is special from that standpoint. So it's like, you sit there and you go, he probably means genuinely, hey, I'm trying to figure out how to coach this guy the best. And he probably also means, like, I got to maybe reload some of these play calls, even though that's not what he wants to do, right? He wants to get to some of his, hey, man, I drew this up for 2nd and 6. I want to get to this, versus, okay, hey, let's go back to script. I'm guessing that's what he's meaning. But it is interesting because I don't see it's funny because when I just see him on the sideline, I don't see their personalities as a perfect match. Like Lincoln Riley, kind of Kevin O'Connell types, maybe. I don't necessarily see Ben Johnson and Caleb as like a perfect match. With that being said, Ben Johnson, I think, is a great football coach, and we'll figure out how to coach him. But just like his aura, like, it feels a lot like when I saw Sean and Russell in Denver, where it was like there's just two different ways of operating. I do think Ben Johnson's way more willing to adjust than Sean Payton currently in his career. So to me, I'm like, I think Ben will figure it out. But there are times where I go, man, he just feels frustrated. And then you wonder how he's then communicating, which then could be what he was saying, where it's like, hey, I need to figure out what needs to be said on the sideline.
Tim, this is great stuff, man. We really appreciate the time. The YouTube channel is All Things QB. It's, as you said, a little bit of a extra overtime breakdown of Caleb Williams this week. A little bit longer than normal. It's about 45 minutes. I know we both watched it yesterday, and hopefully when everybody's done with this show here on Hoge Jahns, you go check it out if you haven't already watched it, because it's really good stuff. And I think we're just the tip of the iceberg of all the possibilities for this season, quite frankly.
Yep.
So I guess we'll see. They go to Detroit. Silent cadence it is. We'll see how it goes.
Thanks, fellas, for having me on.
Appreciate it.
All right, Adam Hoge, let's be real for a second. The world's gone soft. I think football itself is a great cure for that. Just my 2 cents. Everyone gets a trophy just for showing up, except in football. Everything needs to be bubble wrapped, except in football. Soda used to have some kick. Now it's all about the pretty colors and easy fizz. RC Cola is not a soft drink, but a damn good cola that goes great with Italian beef and some Chicago-style pizza. It's original cola that doesn't fold under pressure. RC is an OG cola in the world of spineless soft drinks. No trends, no gimmicks, no glow up. RC hasn't changed its stripe since 1905 because it didn't need to. It's the same bold, crisp flavor it's always been. RC Cola tastes like a punch in the thirst. Do yourself a favor, grab some RC at your local store. Stock up for all your, let's do this again, stock up for all your end of summer parties, those football parties, back to school celebrations, and just watching the game. RC is the move for whatever you're doing.
And our friends at Sunnyside Dispensary are here to elevate your football season. Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free shopping. They have a crazy selection with over 100 different strains to choose from, with easy online ordering and in-store pickup. And wherever you're at in Illinois, Sunnyside has a location for you. They got you covered in the city and as far south as Champaign, far north as South Beloit. Stop in the store nearest you for expert guidance from their staff. You just have to visit sunnyside.shop for Bright Buys every day, and that will include 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Again, sunnyside.shop, 50% off your first 3 online purchases using code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. And for returning customers, you can use code CHGO50. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Dispensary, Bright Buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois medical card holders. John's, that last part with Tim sort of wondering how the personalities of Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson match. I couldn't help but think, and we've already talked about this, when they extend Tyson Bagent and he's like, hey, he reminds me a lot of myself. And we already kind of seen, like, Ben Johnson and Tyson Bagent are wired very similarly. And I don't think that that's going to necessarily go away, if that makes sense.
No. Well, when the head coach is on record saying that, amongst other things, it's not going to away. So here we have a former NFL quarterback in Tim, also like detailing the QB room dynamic. And I have this story up on LCHGO about, some of the games they play inside the quarterback room. And one of those games, Tyson Bagent is winning. But I thought that was an interesting part of the conversation about how, typically your backup quarterback is like Chase Daniel. He's here to help your starter. And that's not to say Tyson Bagent isn't. He is. But he's also a young quarterback who believes he's a starter. The team is on record. Ben Johnson, I should say, is on record saying that he believes Tyson Bagent can be a starter. Now, this is a road I don't want to go down quite fully yet. Caleb Williams is your starter in week 2. He's still the first pick. He deserves time. He deserves patience. As I spit on my mic here, he deserves opportunity to learn, to fail, all of the above. This is how teams develop. This is how he needs to develop. He deserves the opportunity to impress Ben Johnson more by learning and getting better. But as we've also said on this podcast and have written, I think this season is the ultimate test of Ben Johnson's patience as well. because we know he wants to win. He's on record saying that too, Adam.
Johns, it's the test. It's going to test the patience of all of us. You, me, everybody that
Bob
follows,
Dabrowski, B-Man, everybody.
Everybody's patience, because what you're describing there is what I don't care if you're the head coach of the team, you're the GM, you're the owner, or you're Bob Dabrowski. Everybody gets stuck in that exact dynamic of what's best for the long-term future of the franchise versus the temptation to want to win. Because win now, because there's 17 games. That's what's beautiful about this sport compared to all the others. You get 17 games. You already lost one. 16 left. So there's always going to be this urgency. And we don't necessarily need to go into a deep dive, but if you wanted to sit here right now and say that if Tyson Bagent played the second half of that game on Monday night, do the Bears win? I'm tempted to say yes, quite frankly. I am. But that doesn't mean that he should be playing. That's a different conversation, because all the things we just talked about with Tim Jenkins, you invested the number 1 overall pick in Caleb Williams. We know he has all the talent in the world. We see it on that absolute laser beam to Roma Dunze down the sideline on the run that almost nobody can throw. Do you know how hard it is to get momentum coming out of your arm on a throw like that when you're on the move? You always have to reset and get some weight behind. I don't know how he does it. So the all-world talent is there, and if you can get him to learn all those things we just talked about with Tim for over 30 minutes, you should have one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And to just give up on that because you might have 2 other quarterbacks in the room that can take you home to victory with a lead in the second half, that's just not how you can operate. But it sure as hell is tempting, isn't it? To be like, let's get this W and then we'll, work this all out in practice. But it can't all be worked out in practice because of what Tim also said in that interview. You can stand there all you want in practice with that orange jersey on that says they can't touch you. It's live bullets in the game. You got to figure out how to do it on Sunday or on Monday Night Football with everybody watching.
I don't think Ben Johnson is wired to give up on the coaching part of this, whatsoever. I think he views it as part of the challenge, as part of why he enjoys coaching, is why he enjoys competing. It's why he wanted to stay in the NFC North. It's a damn good division. Yes, I want to be a part of it. Yes, I want to compete in it. So I think he embraces such challenges, in this case, developing a young quarterback. He takes it seriously. He values those challenges. But at the same time, and I will argue this to no end about at any level of sport, winning is part of development. It's part of development. I think it's required. I think success, whether that's individual or team, needs to be part of development. It's proof of the pudding, right? It's proof that things are working. And I think Ben Johnson is going to struggle with some of this as the highs and lows come with his young quarterback.
I don't know what the Detroit Lions version of this podcast sounded like week 1 of 2022 when Ben Johnson was, calling his first game with Jared Goff. I mean, he had been on the coaching staff, but I imagine it was a lot of, well, we just got to get through the season and figure out who our next quarterback is. Point being there that, there had to be some patience there with Jared Goff, and then all of a sudden they took off together.
So that's 2002. We can look this up real quick. Hold on.
I think someone actually tweeted at me that the numbers from week 1 of that game were very similar to what Caleb did the other night. Now, it's a different point in his career. I get it, but it's also revisionist history. Jared Goff at the time, it seemed like a salary dump. And they were off to a bad start there. And I think in Ben's first year, even as the coordinator, didn't they start 1-6?
They did. So here's Jared Goff's stats. So let me read these to you. So his first start, this is September 11th, 2022. This was the first year where Ben Johnson's the full-time offensive coordinator. They lost to the Philadelphia Eagles 38-35. Jared Goff was 21 for 37. That's a 56.8 completion percentage, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, pass rating of 80.3. The following week, in a win, a 36-27 win against Washington, he was 20 for 34 for a 50.8 completion percentage for 256 yards and 4 touchdowns. So we'll see what he has coming.
Yeah, it's just in
Detroit. Yeah,
and remember, he was on that second contract at the time. They were going to get to a point where I think in 2023, you get to the point in the contract where like, okay, we can eat this money, we can get out of this if we need to. Maybe it's time to draft his replacement. Like I remember all these storylines, and then it clicked, and they finished strong. And then by 2024, big massive extension for Jared Goff, who's still the quarterback there.
Yeah,
probably will be there for a long time. Good episode. Hope everybody enjoyed it.
I thought I lost you there for a second. It was very good.
Yeah, I got to figure out. I think the same thing happened to Tim in the middle of his interview. Like somebody calls you in the middle of the show, it like interrupts everything. I don't know how to fix that. How do I get my phone off my computer? I don't know why my phone rings 8 devices.
Yeah, I don't like that.
On my phone. All right. Well, we'll be back. We'll be back Friday. We'll break it down. Lions. We got to turn the page here quickly. Bears do too. We got a tough test against a good team that got their ass kicked in week 1. Pretty much embarrassed on the road by a division rival. So they're going to be
and Ben Johnson wants this one. And he's got a good read on the personnel on both sides of the ball. And he knows everything about Dan Campbell and his ways. So
yeah.
Going to be a good
They
game.
know his ways too, but it's probably more an advantage for Ben knowing the personnel over there. Whereas Detroit's got to guess, what is Ben going to change with this new personnel he has? But also the Lions roster is probably overall better. So there's a reason why last I checked, it was a 4.5 point spread. I don't know if that's moved at all, but the Lions are favored and should be. Doesn't mean we won't pick the Bears, though. We'll see you on Friday. Hopefully you're there. We'll break it all down, as we always do, in our preview episode, and then we'll go right back into the weekend. It happens fast. Week 2 on the way. Thank you for being here. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Check out the podcast. Rate and review it. Appreciate you guys, all your support always. We will talk to you on Friday.